Vanity Fair dropped a story that I thought was quite interesting that said that if the Biden campaign was smart, they would be using Vice President Kamala Harris a lot more than they are. Now, look, we've been saying that for a long time. And so now you got Vanity Fair saying it. So maybe since you got some white folks saying these folks might listen.
The validation of white press. Absolutely, because we have been saying this on this show ever since this administration has started. Now, I will say, to my sword, Vice President Kamala Harris is 40 acres and a mule, not 20 acres and a mule, but I won't split hairs here. But what she's talking about economic policy in a relatable way, talking about the direct impact, especially to Black communities, and that's what's needed. So I would say to Vanity Fair, with all due respect, to start covering it. Because Vice President Harris been talking about this. When she goes out of this country, she gets incredible press, but for whatever reason in this country, she's not getting that same press. So Vanity Fair, keep covering this and then tell your other competitors, cover her, because she has a lot to say. Instead of spending all that time covering all of Trump's antics, actually talk and cover when people are actually pushing forward and talking about the vision of 2025 and beyond. Let's start talking about what these two potential administrations want to bring into a second term if either administration were able to do so.
Robert, this is the article here. It says Biden is underutilizing Kamala. Vibes among voters suggest the president is losing Black Americans. His vice president could fix that. Now, one of the things that we have seen all this time, we've seen these various polling data that's being done, and we've seen these other polls. You got Pew saying that 1 in 5 Black men considering voting for Donald Trump. You've got other polls, the Black polls that we've done that show something that's a little bit different as well. But the bottom line is, you got to get her out there. You got to get that a lot more. And I have been saying, and it's not just her. I have been saying it since last year. First of all, let's go back to 2021 when I said the re-election of Biden-Harris should have started the day after the inauguration. Let's just go there. But what we're seeing in terms of the data, we had Adrian Shropshire on with Black Pac, and what they're doing right now, door-to-door canvassing in 3 states. And what they're seeing are people saying, I don't know what their accomplishments are. And you're dealing with lots of misinformation, which suggests then what you have to do is you got to have more forums like this here where you're literally walking through policy, as in we did this. What we did yesterday, Dr. Walter Kimbrough talking about specifically what they've done for HBCUs. To me, what makes sense is they should be saying, hey, we want Black mayors across the country holding these town halls in their cities. We want state representatives, state senators putting these town halls on. If you're talking about right there in Georgia, not sitting here just having these things in Atlanta, but saying, no, we're going to have it in Albany, in Savannah, in Athens, in Jonesboro, in Statesboro, all around. And so you should be utilizing people now, not in September, October. They should be in an information stage now.
Look, Roland, the dirty secret about politics and Democratic politics in particular is they don't like to pay Black people. That's just the reality of the way these campaigns work. They want Black folks to be the political sharecroppers. We want you to volunteer. We want you to bring your congregation. We want you to get your community group out here. Meanwhile, they'll have Chad from who's a student at Yale making $250,000 to organize on college campuses at UGA, Georgia State, etc. What they're going to have to do is take that war chest that they have, and as they say, the old Negro spiritual, break bread. It's just the reality that they're going to have to pay to put these forums on, pay to put these ads on Black media, pay to make sure that they're getting the type of attention at events that African Americans will be at. It's not going to be enough to simply show up for homecoming and do the cha-cha slide and to the stanky leg this year. You're going to need to actually invest in those communities, invest in building those organizations, and not just simply pay everything to consultants and pollsters and your media people. You have to make sure that you are buying into Black communities, spending the money necessary to get those things done. done. And as Rebecca said, these news networks on the left that report every time Donald Trump sneezes, every time Donald Trump takes a nap, every time Donald Trump farts, and that's not even hyperbole. They literally had live reports on that during the Trump trial. We need them to be at some of these events and actually reporting on it. Put a camera on Kamala Harris for 2 hours and just let her talk in prime time. Give them that free media space, as opposed to this continued infatuation that they have with Trump. Every minute that Stephen Colbert spends speaking about President Trump is a minute that he's actually helping Trump, because all publicity is good publicity.
Derek, here's what I'm talking about again. And listen, I don't know how they partition who does what and who controls what. And normally so for instance, you take Kamala Harris, her Twitter feed. Now, you have two feeds. There's the VP feed, which is for official business. So today's event was actually, if I believe, I think today's event was a campaign event. I think it was, or maybe it was part of the White House deal. No, it was a White House deal. So because it was on whitehouse.gov. All right. So here's a perfect example. So let me just do this here. Y'all hold on one second. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of how I see these things being done. So go to my iPad, Henry. So I'm on the Twitter feed right now. And so you see right here, the vice president made a statement regarding this being the 8th anniversary of the Pulse nightclub massacre. Then you see her statement regarding the passing of Reverend James Lawson. I'm going to read that a little bit later. But then you have down here, and you have happening now, I'm speaking with Michael Ealy and Bakari Sellers in Charlotte during the 4th stop of my nationwide economic tour. Okay, so they got the link to the actual video. And then you got a photo right here of her saying, I'm on my way back to Charlotte to highlight our administration's historic actions to take on medical and student loan debt, invest in small businesses, expand access to capital, and more. Okay, so you got this video right here. Okay, that's fine. All right. So, okay, so you got that. And then I go down here. So that's all I got. So regarding what happened in Charlotte, I see 2 comments. I see 2 posts. That's it. Now, if I go back over here to the Kamala Harris feed, and again, I don't know if the DNC is running that, because typically what happens is when you go into the White House, so the DNC runs that. Okay, so here we go back to my iPad. So I'm on here right now. There's nothing about Charlotte today. There's nothing. There's nothing. And I'm sitting here going, okay, I see the Juneteenth stuff, I see all that sort of stuff. There's nothing. Okay, all right, so let me do this here. Let me go over to Instagram. And so let me see what's popping over at Instagram. Okay, so when I click here and I go to VP, now, all right, so so I VP. So on the VP's page on Instagram, I see a post regarding the Pulse nightclub. Got it. I see the Reverend James Lawson. I got it. I see a credit score post from a day ago. I see nothing about today in Charlotte. Nothing. Okay. All right. So so let me do this here. So now let me go over to Kamala Harris. So first of all, if I look at VP, she has 16.4 million followers on Instagram. So if I go over here to Kamala, now I go to Kamala Harris, where she has 14.8 million. Again, I see a post about billionaires paying their fair share. I see a post about gun violence from 6 hours ago. I see a post from her on Jimmy Kimmel from 2 days ago. I see a post from a couple of days ago about gun safety. I see a post here about I don't even know where this is. It's just a caption from 3 days ago. Derek, I see nothing about Charlotte. So when you're in a battle, and just I'm gonna do one last thing again. And what I need people to understand, what I'm doing is this is what we call content analysis. Okay, and so what often happens with these campaigns in the White House, they're focusing on earned media. They're hoping media shows up. The question is, do they show up? So if I now go to the White House feed, okay, so here's a perfect example. On the White House feed, you see it right here. This is the video, okay? 7 hours ago, 2,600 views, 2,669 views. That's the number. That's the number, okay? 2,669 views on the White House feed. Now, I'm not sure who else covered this event. I'm not sure what other folks actually streamed the event. We did, and so I'm looking right here. I'm just trying to see what did it do. So we streamed it one time. It did about 1,000 views. We're going to restream it several more times. So the point I'm making here is this here. Very few people are going to sit down and watch the entire 51-minute or 1 hour and 9 conversation. But they have got to be operating with speed. They've got to be sitting, dropping out clips immediately, literally as it is happening, while it is going on. It is not, you've got to have the Biden-Harris campaign, the DNC, has got to have a strong social media team that's sitting here kicking that stuff out, that's watching it, that's grabbing clips and posting it literally as it is happening. And so what I should be seeing on Kamala Harris on Instagram, what I should be seeing on Kamala Harris on Twitter, what I should be seeing on the VP's Instagram and the Twitter accounts are multiple clips going out. And that literally means having somebody sitting in the White House watching it happen and going, boom, clip that, 60 seconds, kick it out. Clip that, 2 minutes, kick it out. That's the world we're living in, not an analog world. We're now living in a digital world.
So, Roland, just for the record, I want everybody to know that I'm saying this, not Roland Martin. The Biden-Harris campaign needs to hire Roland Martin.
Nope, they can't afford me.
I know, but listen, hear me out, Roland. Here's the reason why I say that. See, because you cannot have a John Doe and a Jane Doe to tell the black narrative. You have to have someone like a Roland Martin that understands the narrative and what to do with the narrative. Because that's like, we talking bilingual here. If you hire John Doe, Robert says somebody up in Yale, right? Somebody up in Yale don't understand the language of Clark Atlanta University. Mm-hmm. You cannot be bilingual. You just cannot take the 87% black men and the 98% black women and just think that because they always voted democratically, that you're going to constantly give something that they're going to consume, which is the reason why, Roland, every time I go to the barbershop, they keep saying, hey, Representative Jackson, what is it that the Biden-Harris campaign doing for black people? They're doing a lot. It's just that it's not on their story feed.
Right, and they're hoping media shows up, but they're not. And so if they are not going to show up, what you then have got to do is utilize your own existing platforms, and you've got to also, again, I don't know who traveled with the vice president. And for all the people out there who don't understand when I'm always talking about why folks have to invest, why we got to have advertisers, because here's the reality. The reality is we don't have the resources to travel in the pool. First of all, for people who don't understand, there's a pool feed that costs anywhere to $300,000 to $500,000 a year. That's separate from Associated Press. That's just the pool feed, okay? So if we were getting fair share of dollars, it could be me, or I could actually pay somebody to go on this trip with the vice president, and whether they ride on Air Force Two, or we can actually fly them to Charlotte ourselves, and you know what happened? They're sitting here kicking stuff out. And see how now again, just people understand how these things work. When you do that, when you all of a sudden are thinking about how you drive content, it's very similar to, frankly, what happened when I went to Detroit. So because I was there, guess what? Sure, the feed was going, we streamed it, but I'm doing interviews with other people who were there. In fact, I was actually ticked off because I was in the pool and they pulled us out, and I was like, hey, it's other folks I could be talking to. And so I'd rather not be in the pool. I'd rather not actually, it's great traveling on Air Force Two, but it actually limits what I can actually do in terms of garnering content. What they have to have is, if she's talking in Charlotte, who were the students in the audience who got student loan debt? Where are the videos? Where are them thanking the vice president and the president for student loan debt? Where are the black-owned businesses that were in the audience in Charlotte talking about it? Where are the black state reps and the black state senators and the city council members and the black mayor of Charlotte and the county execs and the others who were sitting in the audience? Where are the clips of them talking about her coming and those things being important? It's called having a media strategy, and I'm sorry, I don't see it. And if you wait until tomorrow or the day after, you've already missed the news cycle. Derek, go ahead and finish your point.
Yeah, so Roland, 2 points. That's the reason why we constantly are encountering the question, what is it that they're doing for the black communities? The second point is great to have celebrities. I get that whole strategy, but it would have been more powerful that you're talking about economic opportunity for all and have Arian Simone, the sister for the Fearless Fund, up there on that stage, right? Because we know what's happening with the Fearless Fund. And talk about, when you're talking about economic opportunity for all, you have someone, a small business owner that's trying to do those things for women of color and can talk about a real situation that the administration can deal with. And now that resonates a little bit differently.
This is the thing for me here, Rebecca, again.
COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the mic, take back the mic, take back the mic, take back the mic.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.